Imagine a line of water so narrow you could swim across it in under an hour. Now imagine that same line of water carries 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil burned on the entire planet.
You need to see this. My God, it's enormous! We need to warn them.
21 miles wide at its narrowest point. That's it. That's the distance between global economic stability and complete chaos. Every single day, every single hour, every single minute. This isn't a river. This isn't a canal we can just dig wider. This is the Strait of Hormuz. And right now, as you listen to this, supertankers the size of the Empire State Building are squeezing through this bottleneck. They carry crude oil, they carry liquefied natural gas, they carry the lifeblood of modern civilization. But here's the real danger. We don't just depend on this strait for energy, we depend on it for time. And time is the one thing this choke point can erase faster than any weapon ever could. What happens if this single waterway stops for even a few hours? What happens if it's not hours, but days? What happens if it's right now?
No, the wake is gone! Wait, the engines! They've all stopped! What's happening?
You need to understand the scale, because the number is so large it becomes abstract unless we break it down. 20 million barrels. Every single day. That's not just oil, that's $1.4 trillion worth of petroleum flowing through a gap that is smaller than the distance from downtown Los Angeles to Santa Monica. This single passage handles roughly 21% of the world's total petroleum liquids consumption. It handles 1/3 of the entire globe's liquefied natural gas trade. If you drive a car, if you heat your home, if you buy food at a grocery store that was transported by a diesel truck, if you take a flight anywhere, you are tethered to this narrow strip of water. You are physically, economically, and psychologically dependent on a piece of geography that looks like a pinhole on a globe.
I don't believe this. They're all so close. Unbelievable.
But it's not just the volume, it's the lack of options. This is where the pattern interrupts. This is where the comfort of a global economy meets the hard wall of physics. You see, we think of the global oil market as this vast, resilient network. We imagine there's always a backup plan. A pipeline here, a detour there. There isn't, not for this. The world's spare production capacity, the oil we can turn on quickly in an emergency, is almost entirely located in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. And guess what? All of that spare capacity also has to leave the Persian Gulf through this exact same choke point. The Strait of Hormuz is the foyer, the exit door, the only way out. If the door slams shut, the oil doesn't just get delayed, it gets trapped. It gets trapped behind a geopolitical powder keg.
Oh my God! What is that? They're coming! Move! Hurry!
Let's talk about the shoreline. On one side of that 21-mile gap, Iran. On the other side, Oman and the United Arab Emirates. But this isn't a border like crossing from Canada to the United States. This is a military fault line. This is where the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates fleets of small, fast attack craft. These aren't aircraft carriers projecting power, these are swarms. Hundreds of heavily armed speedboats designed for one specific, terrifying purpose: asymmetric warfare in confined, shallow water. The geography is the weapon. The narrowness is the trap. In open ocean, a US Navy destroyer is an untouchable fortress. In the Strait of Hormuz, that same destroyer has limited maneuverability. The water is shallow, the radar horizon is short, and the threat isn't a torpedo from 20 miles away. The threat is a swarm of boats appearing out of the haze with anti-ship missiles and mines. Every single supertanker that passes through here must navigate what are called traffic separation schemes. They are essentially 2-mile-wide invisible highways in the water, one inbound, one outbound. They are confined entirely within the territorial waters of either Oman or Iran. That means these $200 million ships, loaded with $100 million worth of crude, are moving at walking speed through a shooting gallery.
You won't believe what's happening. Look, it's just sitting there, moving at a walking pace. This is critical. How could this be happening?
And this brings us to the chaos scenario, the what if. The simulation you need to see to understand why this strait, not any stock market or central bank, holds the true kill switch for the global economy. Let's run the clock. Hour 0. An incident occurs. It could be a mine, it could be a missile strike on a tanker. It could be the threat of such an attack credible enough to trigger insurance underwriters in London and Switzerland. Because before the first bomb even drops, the economy crashes in a boardroom. It crashes with the word force majeure and the cancellation of insurance premiums. Lloyd's of London immediately designates the Strait of Hormuz a listed area for war risk. The cost to insure a single voyage jumps from $50,000 to $5 million overnight. Hour 2. Shipping companies are not patriots. They are fiduciary stewards of billion-dollar assets and human lives. The captains get the call. Do not enter the strait. Drop anchor. Wait for instructions. And just like that, the flow stops. But the demand doesn't.
They've all stopped. Everything has stopped. What's happening?
Here's the mini cliffhanger. Here's the silent catastrophe feeling. It's not about running out of oil, it's about the price of the oil that is already on the water. We have a strategic petroleum reserve. Governments have stockpiles. Those stockpiles are designed for a slow, gradual disruption, a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, a pipeline leak in Alaska. They are not designed to replace 21% of global supply instantly. The system is built on a just-in-time inventory model. Refineries in Asia, Japan, South Korea, and China rely on Hormuz for over 70% of their crude imports. They have, on average, less than 90 days of storage. What happens on day 91? Lights go out in Tokyo. Factories halt in Ulsan. The world's manufacturing floor goes silent. But let's go back to hour 6. The futures market for Brent crude doesn't just tick up, it gaps. It goes vertical. In a normal, volatile day, a $5 move is news. In a Hormuz closure scenario, you're looking at a $40 to $100 spike per barrel within the first trading session. Let's make that visceral. That means the gasoline you pump into your car goes from $4 a gallon to $7 or $8 a gallon within a week. But it's not just the gas station. That's the decoy. The real collapse is in the supply chain. Every product on a shelf, every piece of plastic, every pharmaceutical, every package of chicken was either made from oil, fertilized by natural gas, or transported by diesel. When diesel hits $10 or $12 a gallon, trucks stop rolling, farmers stop planting. The cost of food becomes disconnected from the value of food.
The numbers just won't stop. They're still climbing, and there's nothing left. We're running out of time.
This is the point where most geopolitical analysis stops. They talk about the Navy, they talk about the Fifth Fleet, they talk about Operation Sentinel. Here's the twist. Here's what no one talks about. The military can't fix this fast enough to save the economy. Yes, the US Navy and its allies patrol these waters constantly. Yes, they have mine countermeasure ships. Yes, they have air superiority. But clearing a minefield in the Strait of Hormuz isn't like sweeping a parking lot. The strait has strong currents, the water is murky. It's the perfect environment for cheap, moored contact mines, the kind you can build in a garage for $1,000. A single mine can paralyze traffic for 72 hours. A campaign of mining could paralyze it for weeks or months. The military mission is to ensure freedom of navigation and prevent a shooting war from escalating. It is not a fast-forward button on the global economy. If Iran or any hostile actor decides to weaponize the geography of the strait with mines and anti-ship missiles, they don't need to sink a fleet. They just need to make the insurance too expensive and the risk too high for a civilian captain to turn the key. The waterway stops, not with a bang, but with a memo from a corporate risk department.
I don't understand. What happened to them? Why is everything just standing still?
Correct. It takes the fear of a war. And we've been here before, not in a hypothetical simulation, in real life. The tanker war of the 1980s. During the Iran-Iraq conflict, over 500 commercial vessels were attacked or damaged in the Gulf. The world didn't end then, you say. That's because the global demand for oil was half what it is today, and the world's spare capacity cushion was massive. Today, the cushion is paper thin. The world consumes 100 million barrels a day. The buffer for error is less than 1%. We are walking a tightrope with a billion-pound weight on our backs, and the net below us has rotted away. But here's the hidden fragility that will keep you up tonight: the financial derivatives market. We talk about oil as a physical barrel of black liquid. Wall Street talks about oil as paper contracts, futures, options, swaps. That market is leveraged 50 to 1, sometimes 100 to 1.
We're at 100 to 1, it's collapsing.
If the physical flow of oil stops for just 72 hours, the paper market experiences a force majeure cascade. Contracts for delivery cannot be fulfilled. Margin calls trigger. A $1 trillion physical oil disruption turns into a $50 trillion derivative unwind. That's not just a recession, that's a systemic banking collapse that makes 2008 look like a slow Tuesday afternoon. The contagion spreads from the hull of a tanker to the heart of the global banking system faster than you can read this sentence.
No. It's happening now.
And yet we treat this place like it's a normal commute. The crews on these ships are the forgotten front line of the global economy. They are mostly Filipino, Indian, and Ukrainian sailors. They are not soldiers. They are not protected by armor. They navigate this gauntlet every single month, staring at radar screens, watching small white blips of Iranian Revolutionary Guard boats circle them like sharks. They are carrying the physical manifestation of $1.4 trillion in global wealth through a canyon of tension. And they do it quietly. The world's attention span flickers. We panic about the strait for a news cycle, then we move on to the next algorithm update or streaming show. But the water doesn't forget. The geography doesn't change. The Strait of Hormuz is the silent heartbeat of the industrial world. And right now, that heartbeat has an irregular rhythm. It's being squeezed by geopolitical pressure, by the rise of drone warfare, and by a global system that has chosen efficiency over resilience. We built a world that runs on a fuel that must pass through a pinhole. We didn't design it this way intentionally, geology did, but we accepted the risk. The question isn't if the strait will be tested again. The question is, when the chain reaction starts, will you understand what's happening before the lights flicker?
Next stop, the flashpoint. Prepare yourselves.
Because if this single waterway made you rethink the fragility of everything you rely on, wait until you see what controls the world's semiconductors. There's a choke point even smaller than the Strait of Hormuz, a place with no navy, no mines, just pure geological monopoly. And it makes this $1 trillion oil flow look like pocket change. If you think the Strait of Hormuz is a hidden kill switch, the next one isn't hidden, it's just invisible to the naked eye, and we're driving straight toward it.